What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch back here with another NFL video. In this video, my top 7 dark horse contenders for a deep playoff run in 2021 and potentially 7 teams that could even win the Super Bowl this year that nobody's really discussing in that conversation. So before I give you the 7 dark horse contenders for a deep playoff run in 2021, make sure that you do spike that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more Bottom Line View NFL content just like this. And check out my Patreon as I give you exclusive NFL content not found on YouTube. Now, before I give you the 7 dark horse contenders, it's important to qualify who's a favorite and who's a dark horse. So I would consider anyone after the top 5 contenders, according to Vegas, to win the Super Bowl as dark horse teams. So those 5 teams in Super Bowl odds leading up to 2021 are the Kansas City Chiefs, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Green Bay Packers, the Buffalo Bills, and lastly, the Los Angeles Rams. If you're one of those 5 teams, you are a favorite. You are not a dark horse. So, that being said, let's introduce my top 7 dark horse teams with the Minnesota Vikings. Yes, I included them as an underrated team, but I also see them as a dark horse team. I said in that video, if the Vikings make it to the NFC Championship game, I would not be surprised because I believe that there are not many NFC teams that actually have as well-rounded of a roster as the Minnesota Vikings. You start off with the playmakers, Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook. A good quarterback in Kirk Cousins, who again, guys, is one of the most consistently accurate quarterbacks week to week, year to year. Just look at the production. Kirk Cousins is that guy. Now, I understand that he nor the Vikings have much playoff success recently, but I'd argue this might be their most complete team in quite a while, or at least under Kirk Cousins as their quarterback, right? You look at the offensive line, it has potential to get better. Christian Darrisaw was drafted in the first round. I really like him. I think the pieces are there for their best offensive line in seasons protecting Kirk Cousins. A powerful run game, enough of a sprinkle in the passing game with Irv Smith and Dede Westbrook as complementary options. I believe this team has a very good offense and it's in the top 10. But defensively, they were not there last year. They made a ton of additions to get there. Their defensive line is quietly one of the most powerful and best versus the run in the NFL. Dalvin Tomlinson and Michael Pierce. It doesn't get much better in terms of interior defensive linemen clogging run lanes. Period. It doesn't. Sheldon Richardson added as a pass rushing element to the interior. And then you have Danielle Hunter, who's legitimately a top 5 pass rusher in the NFL back. Of course, you have Eric Kendricks and Anthony Barr behind them, Harrison Smith in the secondary, and they added a plethora of cornerbacks, including veteran names like Bashaud Breeland and Patrick Peterson, who right away are going to be able to play and perform at a pretty high level. And I wouldn't even be surprised if Patrick Peterson found back to elite form because he's now going away from a man system into more of a zone system. I think that could help him in Minnesota. Not to mention their coach, Zimmer, consistently has one of the best defenses in football, and last year was kind of an oddity. It doesn't really happen for him. He usually has a top 10 defense. So the Vikings overall have the makings of a very complete football team who, because of that, can compete with any NFL team, any one of the top contenders, including the Packers, who they beat once last year, and the Bucks, who they played pretty tight last season. So the Vikings, watch out for them. My number 2 dark horse team in the NFL. Let's go from the NFC North to the AFC North, the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens consistently are a playoff team in the NFL year in and year out. They have a top 6 or 7 quarterback in the league in Lamar Jackson, who's 1 year removed from an MVP trophy. He got his first playoff win in 2020 over the Tennessee Titans on the road. The Ravens could have a better offense this year, and that's the case for the Ravens potentially being a dark horse in the AFC. Rashad Bateman is the best receiver, most talented receiver that Lamar Jackson has ever played with. I believe from day one, Rashad Bateman will be their #1 target in this offense. That allows Marquise Brown, Mark Andrews, and Sammy Watkins to play complementary roles. And when you look at those three players, it's a lot better in terms of complements to the passing game and the receiving game than Lamar has ever had around him. They get Nick Boyle back, one of the game's best run blocking tight ends, who's just crucial to what they do with Lamar Jackson, J.K. Dobbins, Gus the Bus, and that rushing attack. Kevin Zeitler, you may have forgotten he is on this team now. And Ronnie Stanley is back at left tackle. Yes, they lost Orlando Brown, but I think Villanueva will fill in just fine. So this offense could be much better than last year and is actually more talented than the one that dominated the NFL in 2019. Now, defensively, they don't quite have the talent in the front seven they did a year ago. They lost Matthew Judon, they lost Yannick Ngakoue, but I don't think I'm too worried. Of course, they added a first-round pick. They added Justin Houston. I think Bowser is a very talented, underrated player on the edge. And Patrick Queen could step it up in year number 2. Calais Campbell's still there. Brandon Williams is still there. Derek Wolfe is still there. Their secondary is all intact. All very good. Marlon Humphrey's a stud. And of course, Wink Martindale every year has a great defense. He schemes it up. He gets pressure no matter the circumstance. So I'm not worried about the Ravens defense. I never am, because when you look at the stats, it's Ravens are at the top of the league in defense every single year. If their offense can hit on all cylinders, this team could be scary and actually probably is underrated right now. My number 3 dark horse team is the San Francisco 49ers. Now you see the Jimmy G jersey behind me. I don't know if Jimmy G is going to be the guy for them, but if he is, he's proven he can take them to a Super Bowl. If he is not, Trey Lance is. And Trey Lance, accordingly, glowing reports in camp so far, looks good, looks the part of the number 3 overall pick. Kyle Shanahan, I feel, is about to have one of his best seasons as a play caller because he finally has all the pieces in San Francisco that he wants. He has an alpha #1 outside wide receiver in Brandon Ayuk, who's about to have a massive season. He has arguably the best tight end in the NFL in George Kittle. He has the best fullback in the NFL in Kyle Juszczyk. He has 2 backs that he really likes with Raheem Mostert and now Trey Sermon from the draft. Deebo Samuel is a unique entity that nobody else really has in the NFL. This is an offense set up to destroy defenses in a multitude of ways, in a multitude of unique ways, because every player on the field is a weapon no matter where they are on the field as a receiver or a runner, which is extremely unique. You add Trey Lance's ability to improvise and potentially run into this system, it becomes very dangerous offensively, even if they're limited passing the ball. Then you go to the defense. The defense was still top 10 last year, despite all of their losses. And I understand they lost their coach, but I'm actually pretty high on DeMeco Ryans and what he can bring to this defense. Nick Bosa is back, right? Their secondary, Jason Verrett, could have another good year this year and build upon his success from 2020. Jimmy Ward is there. Jaquiski Tartt should be back. Fred Warner is there. The defensive line is very deep, one of the deepest in the league, and Dee Ford seems to be healthy, which was a missing piece from them in 2020. So the 49ers have a complete roster, one of the most talented in the league, and I wouldn't be shocked if they put it all together like they did in 2019 to have a deep run in 2021. My number 4 dark horse team entering the 2021 NFL season is again another team that was on my underrated list. That is the Tennessee Titans. The Titans certainly have the explosive ability and the pure talent to make it far in the playoffs and potentially challenge a team like the Chiefs in the AFC. The Titans do have a top 10 quarterback in Ryan Tannehill. They do have a good offensive line. They do have Derrick Henry, who's the best running back in the league, the most dominant running back in the league. They have Julio and AJ Brown, which if they're both healthy are #1 top 5 top 10 receivers in this league. And then you go to the defense, where they've upgraded on the front 7 with Bud Dupree, Danico Autry, Harold Landry is there, Rashawn Evans is there. I like the makings of this front 7 led by Simmons in the middle. They could potentially be really, really good together, right? There's questions, but if it works, it's gonna work, and it's gonna work well with Mike Vrabel coaching them. And then in the back end, they have a lot of potential. Caleb Farley being that guy that could be the missing piece from what they were missing last year in a shutdown #1 corner right away. Of course, they have one of the game's best free safeties. Janoris Jenkins, I feel, is an upgrade to the #2 spot. And I just think the Titans, with a really good offense that can run the ball and pass the football, and a defense that, let's just say, is better than they were last year, they could be a team that wins a shootout versus the Chiefs, wins a shootout versus the Bills. So I like the Titans this year. I think they have a chance to go far. The number 5 dark horse team is the Seattle Seahawks. And to me, the Seahawks, every single year, kind of like the NFC's version of the Ravens, are probably going to be in the playoffs. It's just a matter of how successful will they be once they get there. Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll have proven year after year, no matter what's around them, they can have success. What I'm really looking forward to with Seattle is the change in offensive coordinator and offensive scheme. I feel like the tempo is going to rise for Seattle. In Shane Waldron's offense, I really think it's going to bring more of a Rams McVay flair that brings some more play action to the table, some more passing to the table. And they, of course, have the skill position talent to pull this off. Gerald Everett was an upgrade at tight end. They have one of the best duos at wide receiver in the league, with DK Metcalf potentially this year proving he can be the best in the league. I wouldn't be shocked by that at all. He has that pure ability, and Tyler Lockett is an awesome number 2. They also added a nice little receiver in the draft as their number 3. And the offensive line improved quietly throughout the offseason. I really think this offense is going to be real good, especially if they can finally just unleash Russell Wilson. And if Russell Wilson can keep up that throughout 16 games, now we're talking. Now, defensively, they were bad last year. And when you compare their defense last year at the beginning of the year to the defense this year, on paper, they're better. Right, the defensive line is better. They now have Carlos Dunlap, Kerry Hyder. Their defense is better on the defensive line. Yes, they lost a corner or 2, but I'm not too worried about that because that's not essential to their scheme. Their safeties are excellent. Jamal Adams is a beast. Bobby Wagner can still ball. I like this team. And in an NFC that's wide open, if they can score 30 a game with Russell Wilson, then I don't really care how good their defense is. They can be in the mix in this conference. The number 6 dark horse team. You ready for it? You sure? The New England Patriots. Yes, bring the heat. Bring it. I can sense it right now. The number 6 dark horse team is the Patriots. Why? Because I think there's an argument to be made that they have the best coach in the NFL, that they could have the best offensive line in the NFL, and they could have the best defense in the NFL. And when you have those 3 things, including a top coordinator in the league, you are going to be competitive and you are going to be very good. I think that can happen for the Patriots. Not to mention, these guys that they've signed on offense are making a name for themselves in camp so far. Cam Newton looks to be good right now. He looks to be shining with his new pieces around him with Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith, and a receiving core filled with Nelson Aguilar, who's just balling, Kendrick Bourne, and Jacoby Myers, who he already has that chemistry with. This is a much better offense than last season, and they have probably a offensive line that is going to give fits to other teams stopping the run because they're going to overpower you. What I love about New England and what makes them a dynamic and different threat this season is how they can attack you on offense and how they are built on defense. They are built to beat the best teams in the AFC. They are built to beat the Chiefs. They are built to beat the Bills. And they were even competitive with these teams last season in tight football games with lackluster talent just because of how they played from a style standpoint. So if that can take place again, just increasing the talent, you have the coaching to win any given game and put together a game plan to defeat any given team. The Patriots are a team that if they get on a roll, especially with a quarterback that builds and feeds off of momentum the way Cam Newton does, it would not be shocking at all if they made a run in January. And my final dark horse team entering 2021. Some people may or may not consider this a dark horse, but according to Vegas, they are not a favorite. That is the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns, to me, are probably the most talented roster in the AFC. Their offense is completely intact. They did not lose a single piece. In fact, they only got better. They added Odell Beckham Jr. Their offensive line has a second year of chemistry together. Baker Mayfield, who was awesome the last 8 games of the season, has another training camp, another offseason, and a second season in Stefanski's offense. That is huge. People don't understand how big that is. Jarvis Landry was dealing with hip surgery last offseason. He should be closer to the guy that he was earlier in his career entering 2021. This offense could be the most well-rounded in the league, or at least in the AFC. The defense is quietly very talented, especially at the back end, where they brought in John Johnson. They brought in Troy Hill. They drafted a first-round corner. They still have Denzel Ward. They have depth everywhere at safety and corner. The Browns have a team that can score with the Bills and the Chiefs, but might arguably have a better defense than both teams. So the Browns could be that team with a second year of experience in big games to take it to the top teams in the AFC and go to the Super Bowl. Let me know in the comment section below what you guys think. Who are the dark horse teams in the NFL? Which one of these teams do you like the most to make a run? And do you think any of these picks are crazy? Let me know in the comment section below. It's Mitch. Thanks for watching. Peace.